Scouts commence.
Okay, color guard attention. Audience please rise. Color guard advance. Color guard post colors. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard, return to seats.
Remain standing during the prayer. Lord God, we ask for rekindling of the fires of faith and freedom in our great nation today, starting here. In the name of Christ, amen. Be seated. To refresh you about what happened last year, it's only been a year ago, the 162nd annual meeting of the Old Settlers Association literally became history today with a vocal delivery of God or Help in Ages Past, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance rendered with the Delphi Boy Scout group with Aaron Lafon and Andrew Schoen rendering an instrumental version of the national anthem, and the entire group troop leading the gathering of the Pledge of Allegiance. Following the readings of last year's proceedings, Heritage Awards were granted to Janet Ayers, recently elected president of the Indiana Barn Foundation, on behalf of the countywide barn tour of last year, which encompassed many barns and involved many visitors to the county from many states. Another such award was granted to Bart Draper for Roland refurbishing the home of Dr. William A. Troball Cutler. The group was transported into the third annual meeting of June 14th of 1856 by an account of Enoch Stansel, Esquire, and Mr. Aaron Gregg of the early settlement of the county. Mary Anna Selvig, cousins of President of the Old Settlers Association, Mark A. Smith, and vocalist delivered two solos of both an inspirational and spiritual nature. Awards were given to David Matlack from Bloomington for the furthest distance traveled, and age-related awards were granted to both Lynn Horton for being the oldest man and Clara Ryder for being the oldest woman in attendance. The Miss traveled Emily Seaston, and most family members were represented by Carol Baker with two generations of descendants. The board of directors thanks to Blue Moose, Mitchell's, the Garden Gate, Tea Room, T&T Pizza King for donations of gift certificates. President Mark A. Smith closed the meeting with thanks to the sound technician Drew Sandora for his role in live streaming the annual meeting on the City Chamber's Facebook page and the flock of the sanctuary for their support and generosity in hosting the occasion. Next year's meeting will be at the same location on August 11th. Now, in order to pay homage not only to her hometown, but a very unique area of it, Annie Baxter Harrison has planned a choice of obituary and stories of notables of the distaff site, as well as their grand dwellings in which they resided at very pivotal time periods in local history. In addition to the uniquely published book, she manages a Facebook page utilizing social media to adopt them to accent similar and related topics. So I turn this over to Candy Pastor Harrison. To paraphrase Mr. Rogers, instead of a beautiful day in the neighborhood, it's a nice day in a beautiful neighborhood. And the neighborhood is South Delphi. Candy, it's over.
Okay. So I gotta tell you, I got here and I looked at the program and it said I'm the featured speaker and I said, oh, didn't know that. Got me up my game a little bit here. I hope some of you have seen my books. I've been working on this for about 5 years now. Let me give you a little history. My muse is Bonnie McNamara. Bonnie. Another Clausen, this is like a Clausen reunion.
Yeah.
Bonnie Maxwell, who is a Clausen cousin. And many years ago, I was telling Bonnie about growing up on the South Hill, and what a wonderful place it is, and all the neat things we did, building those. Remember when we built the piles of leaves, everybody would break the piles of leaves, and everybody come out and we'd roast marshmallows and hot dogs, and it was kind of like a community thing, and just wonderful stories about growing up there. And Bonnie kept saying, well, you should write it down, and I was like, yeah. And then the bicentennial came along, and she became the bicentennial coordinator, and she said, you really should write it down now. So I thought, okay, well, this would be a good time to do it. And so she got me approved as an Indiana Bicentennial Legacy Project, and I went to work. And originally, I was just going to document sort of memories and photos, what it was like to grow up in the Hill in the 1950s and 60s, which was a really wonderful time to be there. And it just sort of snowballed. I put up the Facebook page to, I thought maybe some people would want to share photos and share memories. Sure enough, I think I have 467 people right now who follow that page very regularly. And people, people just love to share memories. You know that. You like to share memories. So I put out the first book last year, and it's called The People on the Hill. And it's just kind of a summary of some of the history, something about the schools and the graveyards and the Hill Picnic. Does anybody remember the Hill Picnic? It used to be a wonderful time. I always say it was, for the kids on the Hill, it was Christmas, Old Settlers, and then the Hill Picnic. Those were the three big events of the year. So I put that out, but as I was doing the research for that book, and one of the things I did, and I don't know if anybody's here from the Carroll County Comment and from the library, but thank you for putting those old newspapers online, because I just spent hours on those. So as I was going through the old clippings, I noticed several things. One is some of the family names are dying out. I don't think there are any more Ballins around, or Bombs, or Cartwrights, or some of those old family names that I was familiar with when I was growing up. I thought, how sad, but how do we make sure that gets passed along? Another thing I noticed was that there was a lot written about the men and the accomplishments of the men, but not a whole lot written about the women. And I thought, well, that's kind of too bad too, because when I was growing up, of course, there were a lot of moms who stayed at home at that time, but those moms, all the moms on the Hill, are the ones that had a lot to do with who I am today, because they all had the same authority as my mom did. So if I was doing something wrong, in front of Edna Grimm's house, Edna was going to tell me so. And Anne reported to my mother. So I thought, I think some of the women deserve some attention here, and I'd love to find a way to do it. Then I came across Miss Lillian Blythe. Has anybody heard of Miss Lillian Blythe? She lived across the street from you. Miss Lillian was born, 1870 something or 60 something, and she remained a spinster all her life, but she did amazing things. She lived up there on South Washington Street, and among the things she did, her father owned the furniture store and the funeral home, and when he died, she took them over. So we're talking about a woman around the 1900s running two successful businesses. She also started her own business of homing squabs, homing pigeons. And I found an article that was actually written by the Chicago Tribune, but I found it in all states all across the country about Miss Lillian Blythe's homing pigeon business that she started as a very young woman. But she didn't stop there. She was also a suffragette. She was on the state suffragette committee and helped women get the vote in Indiana. She personally went around Carroll County and got women to sign up to vote when they had the vote. She was a social butterfly. The Hill picnics were held on her property. So she was just an amazing woman. But here's the thing I think she did that was most remarkable. Again, 1900, she went to Australia for a year. And how does a woman from Delphi, in the 1900s, figure out how to go to Australia? She went to New Zealand, she went to Australia, she wanted to learn about the furniture business back there because, you know, she was running the furniture company in Delphi. I mean, I just fell in love with her. I thought, I wish I'd known her, you know, but when I get up there, I'm gonna look her up, but amazing woman. And then there were some other amazing women. Mary Catherine Howe. I have to tell you, when I was growing up, my mother was actually born in the house that's now the CSB&B up on the hill. And Mary Catherine Howe lived on one side and Josephine and I lived on the other side. And my mother just thought they were the most amazing women. And she quoted them to me all my life. And Mrs. Howe was the one that had her and her dolly over for a tea party and taught her how to use the tongs to lift the sugar cube into her tea cup. So, but Mary Catherine Howe was among the first women to go to the University of Michigan. She met her husband there and came to Delphi. She's the one that got the Delphi Public Library built. She's the one that started the DAR chapter in Delphi, and she's the one that started the Oracle Club. So she was a remarkable woman. She never had children, but she was very engaged with the international student community in Purdue, and often have international students come down to Delphi, and I guess probably meet with the Oracle Club, but also, you know, entertain them. So she was a remarkable woman. I was telling somebody that I was talking to Tom Ives yesterday, and I said, your grandmother has been the bane of my existence my whole life, because my mother told Mrs. Ives one day, you look so beautiful. Mrs. Ives said, Mary, I believe it is a woman's duty to look her very best every day to make the world a better place. And my mother quoted that to me constantly. So these were amazing. Mrs. Wells, Yantis Wells, some of you may have heard that name. He had a store downtown. He was also the mayor of Delphi for a while. I see another mayor up there. He was the mayor of Delphi for a while. Mrs. Wells came up from Ohio, and she did a lot of parks, the parks in Delphi. But the thing that was really remarkable about her is she was selected as one of 4 women in Indiana to go out and be a hostess of the Indiana exhibit at the World's Fair in 1915 when they opened the Panama Canal. So I mean, here again, a woman from Little Delphi, you know, is getting chosen for that. So I got interested in these women, and I thought, you know, these stories should be told. They should be preserved, not only because to honor them, but maybe to inspire young people. You know, that even if you're just from Little Delphi, you can really do great things in this world. And so I started my doyens, and somebody says, all right, so what is a doyen? A doyen is a highly respected woman. It came from my mother always saying that Mrs. Ives and Mrs. Howard were the doyens of the hills. So that's where I got the idea for it. And I selected them by I started with a list of people I knew, you know, women I knew, women I'd heard of. And then as I was going through the newspaper clippings, I would add to it. And I tried to pick women who had held leadership roles in education, culture, religion, politics, public service, you know, had held some sort of leadership role in the community. And so I published my first book, and they were women born before 1900, and they included Miss Blythe and Mrs. Wells and Mrs. Howe. And then I just finished, and I got a couple of copies here to give away for free if anybody wants them. So this is Doyens of the Hill 2. These are women born 1900 to 1919, and they're people like Helen Ives and my grandmother, and Francie's mother, and a few other nice ladies on the hill. And then I'm working on now Doyens of the Hill from 1920 to 1940. And I'll have a few other, I see some faces in here who will be in that. Your wife will be in it, Francie will be in that. And then I'm gonna quit, so the ones I knew, and I moved away. I moved away when I was 15, so it's been kind of fun to take my ideas that I had formed when I was a young girl and see how they look from the perspective of an adult. You know, they held up pretty well. Those women I picked out when I was a young girl to be my role models turned out to be pretty good women to follow. So I have a couple of ideas for future books. I'm going to do, my next one I want to do is Artists on the Hill, and Bob Quinn in that. And there were a lot of people who did some pretty significant art on him. Mrs. Ives, Mrs. O'Hare, Bob Sales did Cromwell. Elsie Cromwell, Georgia Lloyd Quinn, George Remington did wonderful carvings, Bill Curlin did wonderful carvings, so there are lots of interesting. And so here's my plea, if any of you are family members or you know other artists from the Hill, I'm looking for photos and information, please send them to me. I do have some cards if you're interested. My books are for sale, although I do not sell them, and I do not make any profit from them. This is my labor of love. I donate them to the library, the museum, Delphi Preservation Society. They have them up in the Gerard Reading Room, and I just deliver the set to the Delphi High School. So, yeah, I'm hoping some kids will look at them and be inspired. But you can buy them. I say if you do that, you're going to buy it from Shutterfly. They're ridiculously expensive, so wait till they're having a really good sale and then buy them if you want to. But you can look at them online for free because Kelly puts them on the Delphi Public Library website, so you can get any of them there. I guess that's about it. This has been really rewarding. I mean, one of the things I see Mike Wilcox over here. I've gotten it, I started this as thinking I'm just gonna write down some stuff and who knows if anybody will care. But I've found old friends. We had a great conversation, and I think I taught him some things about his mother he didn't know, and he told me some things about my grandfather I didn't know. So it's been a really, really rewarding project. And if I have a message today, it would be this: tell your stories. Everybody has a story to tell. Everybody in here holds a piece of history, and it's interesting to other people. And people love to share their memories and share that history. So, tell your kids, write it down, tell me, I'm happy to write them down, but tell your story because it's really worth keeping and passing along. Are there any questions?
And write on your photos.
I'm sorry?
And write on your photos.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
we're having a discussion, and it's so frustrating, you get a photo and you don't, who is this? When was it taken? Please go back to your photos and write, your kids will appreciate it someday when they're pointing out the attic, so write on your photos. Any questions? I hope you get a chance to look at the book, and I have a couple of these that I can give away for free, so if anybody wants them. Okay.
For your work.
Thank you.
Oh, look good on your wall.
Thank you. Thank you. I have my great grandfather Todd, and my grandmother Clausen, and my mother were all president of Old Settlers, so I figured they're pretty happy.
Yeah.
Over this?
Yeah.
Can't wait till after.
Really good.
Will that be on Facebook too?
Well, by the way, talking about Facebook, we're the oldest deed in the new, the second time in a row, thank you, Bruce and Dora. This is going on the community, the Carroll County Info page. So, the oldest deed in the new today, one last year. Now, our second awardee, honoree, is Melissa Bishop. And I'm going to lead into this by saying Pennsylvania 65000 in Flora, Indiana, the Flora Depot project. A derelict Vandalia Railroad Depot, which was originally constructed in 1908, nearly demolished in 1910 by a railroad accident, is presently being returned to its original glory, such that early day station agents W. Brown and Robert Clark would feel comfortable in the structure where they appear on the scene today. The structure was later moved into Burnsville Laundromat, which later then burned. Thanks to Flora Main Street's efforts, the depot will hopefully be as beneficial to the Flora area in terms of economic development as was the original structure with the advent of the rail to the Flora area. Now, I'm going to let you, Melissa, come up and deliver a series of remarks, if you will, about that project.
Thank you. I'll make a brief series. I could talk all afternoon about the depot project. I will say, we do have a website, floraindianadepot.org. So all the details, pictures, everything you want to know about our project is there. But just to expand on what Mark said, as he's fond of saying, Flora owes its existence to the railroad. The Flora Depot was built in 1908. It served our community for over 60 years and was moved in 1969, converted into a laundromat, which it continued to serve the community for many years after that. There was a devastating fire in 2003, and at that time, the owner elected not to repair it. So it just sat there on South Sycamore Street, declining. But regardless of that, In 2011, in the Carroll County Historic Sites and Structures Inventory put together by the Department of Natural Resources, the depot was ranked a notable example of Queen Anne style of transportation architecture. So definitely great bones were saving that nobody knew what to do. So it's hard to believe that 5 years ago today, right now, it was still falling apart on South Sycamore Street in Florida. 2013 also brought our last chance to save the depot. And as we like to say in Florida, in an almost fateful convergence of events, the town of Florida Main Street, and a crew of volunteers came together and figured out what we were going to do. So at that point, it was a great leap of faith to pursue this project. And we had funding from the town of Florida and many volunteer hours of men going in there, salvaging the interior, taking the roof off, and finally taking it all apart and putting it on a flat trailer and storing it in a maintenance building. And I will back up and say that we had an architect working with us at that time. We didn't have any money to pay him, but he started working with us, and he developed a deconstruction plan. So we didn't just take it apart willy-nilly. We did it with an eye of putting it back together. So to fast forward a little bit here, our architect we did get the money to pay him, and he developed a restoration plan. Our project is designed to be completed in 5 phases. Phases 1 and 2 are done. We've had really wonderful success with grant writing, financial support from entities in Carroll County and in Florida, a generous response to our fundraising efforts, and it's just taken a lot of people and a lot of organizations to come together to make this project successful today. Ultimately, our depot, well, first of all, let me tell you, it sits right across the tracks in downtown Florida from where it originally sat. So it's just the mirror opposite of where it always was. Ultimately, it will be a local history and railroad history museum. Phases 1 and 2, as I said, are completed. That is, the exterior is completely restored, and the site has been developed enough that we can use it for outdoor events. In fact, we had our first outdoor event in July, and we are planning our first annual Depot Day Festival for September 22nd, so we're very excited about that. Now we're trying to get funding together to start restoring the interior, which will be the fun part of this project. We've begun working with the Indiana Historical Society to design the museum space. It's going to be small, so we have to be very creative about how we're going to display things and rotate exhibits to keep it fresh and invite people back. Right now, there's a partnership beginning between the Florida Community Club and the Florida Library to catalog and organize the collection that will be the Depot Archive and to store it properly. So a lot of people from all over have come together to work on this project. So I'm hoping, say 2 to 3 years from now, we can invite you to the opening day of the Florida Depot Museum and Railroad History Museum.
Now, for your work and everybody else's, this all looks real good on the wall.
It will. Thank you very much.
I have a big thing for transportation. And transportation can either make or break an area, and I hope it makes more.
Thank you. Mark's been a great cheerleader for our project, and we do appreciate his support in that of the Carroll County Historical Society. And he's right, this is gonna look really great in the restored facility of our depot.
So the very next group of people, we have the recognized For the Clausens, the other Clausens. Get it? When I was a kid and going to the Surf Festival in Park County, I learned to 50 gallons of sap out in the woods to make one gallon of syrup on your pancakes. So if that's wrong, Pat, correct me. The Clausen Sugar Bush in Adams Township, Carroll County, Indiana. When acreage and the accompanying heritage are quickly fading, the Clausen family's enterprise of the Sugar Bush is an admirable legacy for future progeny to inherit. Albert Schaefer, grandfather, and Mary Brown boiled the syrup outside in the shanty the hard way. Presently, fairly technological, with a discussion on the Enterprise's Facebook page utilizing tubing instead of traditional buckets and spouts one usually associates with this unique business. I heartily advise investigating both media presences for a full introduction to the trade in beautiful Adams Township. And Pat, or somebody, would you please come up and give your defense of what I just said?
I'm Eric Clausen, and, this is a family business, really. I should say business, we don't make any money. We're break even, but, we started out many years ago with our granddad, and that's way our mother back there. They brought us up, and then we didn't know anything else. We were the labor. We were the ones that went out there and toted the buckets and went that old enough, so we got tired. Our granddad then got sick and moved to Lafayette and kind of lost that part of it. Well, Brother Pat and I were out there living in a barn 30 years ago. 35 years ago. Said, what about it? I said, well, things got changed. I got rid of this building, go to another one. So we were out there at Christmas, I remember, trying to put a roof on, snow was falling. Finally got it on. We had to get ready for February. That's when we capped tree. Ready to go. So we finished it up, guys, and had our first year. Since then, it's, we see a lot of people come, see a lot of people go, see a lot of kids come up that never had seen this before. And now we see a lot of them aren't kids anymore. They've grown up to be family members and they're bringing their kids back out to see what it's all about, to go to the sugar shack. And we look at each one of them and say, one of these days, you're going to be there. So the living history part of it is really interesting going on. I mean, we look back and say, yeah, we can see what used to be there, what it is. We're out there right now. And it's always good when we have a bus pull out there with the kids from East Lawn School, which is just down the road, for a walk during the day. We put out a nice seminar and they get to able to see, we go out and see what the bucket is, and fill them up with the waters, and then when you can lift this up this high and dump it in here, you can come back. Well, it's been quite a while. 5 gallons of water takes a while. You gotta be big like my son, Pat, and myself, and we kind of forgive them if they don't quite make it into the tank the first couple of times, but after a few years, they've got to be skilled in that sense that you got to try to save everything. So it works out in the history portion of it. We've had a few people come down and do documentaries from Logansport. They took it to AARC, which is art. The kids can't get out. Their old summer brain is pretty muddy and it's hard to get wheelchairs and stuff out. So they just took a video and put it into the archive. And anybody who wanted to watch it was able to pick that up. Been many articles. You look at the common paper out here back 15, 20 years ago. There's a lot of memorable pictures in there. People came out to help out. I also want to thank my mom. She had a foresight and played behind the scenes in there when this ground was in their family. Was put it into somebody who would take care of it. And being a trustee shed or taking a trustee of something in there, you gotta, grab the roof, you gotta pay the bills, electric company wants theirs, taxes, and all that stuff. And sometimes you wonder if it's worth it, but you see that little kid, you pile of pancakes, and say, this is the best stuff. It's definitely labor of love. It doesn't get that easy. 50 gallons, 40 gallons is what we normally have nowadays to make a gallon of syrup. Works out pretty good. I just finished coming over from White County, that's where I lived at. And we did farmer market over there. And That's one of our places to sell it. And even at the farmer's market, you get a little bit of history of people as they come in and spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes with them and explain the process, and what it takes to involve. I want to again thank our granddad and his dad and brothers, everybody that came before us. We weren't the first ones that ever go tap it. We lose a tree, out there, like we lost this year, a big one. I'm 62. That tree's been part of my life for 60 years, and it's been there for 150. So, you see somebody go down like that, as part of the family. So we're gonna end up cutting it up, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna use it to burn in there. And we're gonna hit the tap line in there, cut a slice out of it, and that is kind of where the history is. So you see back how many years ago it was tapped out. So, to us, then, we see that cycle start all over again, taking care of it. With all my family, Pat and Brian, all the helpers in there, if you want to come up, it's not all me. Okay, you guys helped out on this.
Get up there, 3 honchos. Get up there. Without him, we'd be. I'm the new muscle, I guess. Your belly is a piece of muscle. Well, I hold that.
And we have, in that family, we have 2 great families represented as well, the Schaefer and Timmons families, Carroll County. All bills go back to Adams Township, which is a world in of itself. I think God's country, it all. Yeah.
And we'd like to invite you all in February, if you're got your boots on, come on out. If we're well, we welcome all.
Yeah, we find it pretty easy.
It's pretty easy. Thank you.
Our last honoree is Bob Quinn, a study in art and service. As I've come to know Bob, he's characterized by a unique, nearly photographic style of art of local attractions, ranging from a rendition of 3 courthouses, cabins at Canal Park, as well as his classic work displayed in the Kruger Parlor of the Reef Case House at Canal Park, the Founder's Point area. My compliments also go to Bob for inheriting a family roofing business, which stood at the present site of the new community center, and using that as an instrument of serving his native county and community in a unique way. His service to God has been seen in various leadership roles at the Delphi Presbyterian Church. Other expressions of his community service include the Lions Club and former Masonic Lodge. Thus, we see a very well-rounded and varied person to be complimented and recognized this afternoon. Bob. You have the floor.
I forgot my cane as well.
Now, what is here?
Now, first I want to say, I didn't come here to make a speech. I could only accept the award.
Talk while you're here, so you talk.
I would like to say a little bit about my artist career. I didn't start painting until 1988, I was 65 years old, and retired. Yes, I was retired 30 years. So I took a few lessons as part of the art shop at Lafayette. When we went to Texas, I took a few lessons down there, and mostly I caught up my own trial and error, that's a hard way of doing it. But I've been mostly specialized in artists and outdoor scenery, all over the county, but mostly local here. I got a lot of paintings of the streams and rivers and so forth. For example, take the little Deer Creek out here. I started where, made a picture where it comes into the Wabash. Then we got one of the path along the way. And they got another of the waterfalls. They come on down the town, and I made several pictures of the canal arch. The arch over the Deer Creek, the old bridge, not the new bridge, the old bridge. I've got pictures of down in the the swinging bridge down there. So I went all along the creek, taking pictures. And the canal down there, I must have 50 pictures of all different things down the canal. I got this display out in the vestibule out there, you can go out and look at it, and it's over with. So I'd like you to just take a look at it. But I want to accept this award on behalf of the whole Quinn family. My wife, she painted right along with me and painted the same type of sceneries I have. And of course, my mother, Georgia Lloyd Quinn, was a well-known artist that did the same thing back before that. But they can't be here today to accept awards, so I'm going to accept it in the name of all three of us, the whole Quinn family. So if that's all right at the committee, well, that's what I'd like to do.
Go for
Uh,
it. And for, on behalf of the entire Quinn family, this all looks real good on somebody's wall, completely.
That's the thing.
Thank you.
At 95 years old, I'm kind of shaky.
Thanks much, Paul.
That's my compliment.
Yeah.
Very good, very good.
Now, even though I'm continuing as a part of the organization, Karen's going to be the incoming president. Would you please stand, Karen? And now we get into some footwork. Youngest, oldest, distance traveled, that kind of thing. So Gail, would you please do the honors?
All right, you guys were wondering why you had to sign in. Well, we took a little bit of information. We have awards for the oldest man, oldest woman, youngest child, the farthest distance traveled, and the person here who has the most descendants present. So, our oldest man at 95 would be Bob Quinn. All right, and our oldest woman at 87 is Jane Bishop. All right, and on the youngest child, this was just a little, it wasn't quite sure on the chart. 10 years old. Burkhart, is it?
Yeah, so David is the grandson of Janice Jean Matthews Burkhart, who was a descendant actually of Aloysia Quinn. And my friend probably remembers that. So yeah, I wasn't prepared. Yeah, so I was not prepared with my mother-in-law, figures are, my daughter did genealogy. And so, yes, we are descendants, and probably a lot of people don't know that. Stand up, David, be proud. Yeah, but maybe next year. And so what we live in is the old Presbyterian church that Reverend Rankin had there, that's now privately owned. And I think Mark Smith knows.
I know where it is.
Yeah, but yes, yeah.
Next door is Grove's house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
On Main Street.
So, yeah, we have a lot of historical,
That you do.
things in our, down there at the north end.
Very good. All right, our discussed travel is from all the way from Guatemala.
Wow.
Michael Murphy. not least, most descendants today is Mary Paulson Brown IV.
Congratulations, thank you.
So if you guys could all stick around after the meeting for a group photo, please. Thank you.
And now, Neil wanted me to bring my hat in for a reason. I promised not to take any money home with me. I would just like to take my hat and give back to him.
Yeah.
I think a good time to have my all. I'm sitting at a Carroll County party today. Thank you all for coming.